Everybody, this is Brian Finnerty from Macabre Daily, and we're here with another Skeletons in the Closet interview where we like to look at everything that is super queer about horror and all the ways that they intersect. I am really excited today to be joined by Tiffany Albright, based out of North Carolina. She's a producer, writer, filmmaker and mostly why we're here today, also a film festival director. So, hi, Tiffany. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, I reached out to you recently because of the big event you have coming up this month, February 21st, the Queer Fear Film Festival, correct?
Yes, the countdown is on. We are less than 3 weeks away.
Oh my
That's
God.
scary.
Scarier than any of the movies that are going to be shown. I'm obviously we want to spend a bunch of time like talking about the festival, and I want to hear about that. But in the interest of just getting to know you a little bit first, could you maybe tell us like what is your horror origin story?
Oh,
Why
I love
why
this.
horror?
Well, I think I have loved horror for almost as long as I can remember. One
Mhm.
of my really formative media experiences when I was no older than 5, so definitely way too young for it. My older siblings were watching Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
I was just light up bopping around the house and walked through in the scene where she gets dragged up the wall. And then I slept with my lights on for a week. But somehow that turned into a good experience because I became obsessed as soon as I got into school with like scary stories to tell in the dark
Oh yeah.
and Goosebumps and then Fear Street. And then when we started hanging out, right, like as middle school girls having our sleepovers, we were binge watching Stephen King movies. So I'm not sure how my brain processed that like really traumatic experience into like give me more of that, but it
Yeah,
did.
'cause you started hard. Like
Really, I
that
actually
scene still
could
makes
not
me
watch Freddy for a
uncomfortable.
long time though. I was like Stephen King, yes. And they were like Freddy Krueger and I was like no, I can't. Eventually I got over it and now I'm a huge fan. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is one of my all-time favorite movies, but yeah, I had a little extra sensitivity there for a while.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I love how we all like the variables and the details change a little bit, but we all have such similar stories. And
Yeah.
it's like, thank God for the internet because why didn't we all know each other when we were growing up and
Yeah.
kids? We all would have been best friends.
Would have been so good.
Um, so a similar question, but in terms of like maybe thinking about horror a little more deeply, obviously based on your film festival and the stuff that I write about for Macabre Daily, we're super interested in the intersection of queerness and horror. Um, when, if you remember it, when did you start like realizing that there might be a connection or the two worlds had some overlap?
I think it actually happened quite late because I feel like I came to film later than a lot of my like peers when I was in film school. They were like, "Yeah, I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 8." I was like, "I've wanted to be a filmmaker for about 2 months." But my entry into the world of film was through I was studying abroad in Johannesburg, South Africa, and I was interning at a gay and lesbian community center, and we all attended a queer film festival.
Hmm.
And I didn't know what that was gonna mean. Like I was familiar with like queer literature. I thought that was really exciting. But
Mhm.
like other than, I don't know, like Brokeback Mountain, I wasn't really aware of like what existed in queer cinema. I absolutely nothing. And what we were seeing at the festival were all new films, right? They were indie made, but
Mhm.
I was instantly like hooked. I was like, this is the coolest stuff I've ever seen.
Mhm.
How do I do that? Like, how do I get involved in doing that? And like most sort of mainstream queer film festivals, there weren't any genre films that I can recall seeing. There were
Mhm.
some rom-coms, there was a musical. So I thought all that was really cool, but it wasn't until I began to like think about like, oh, what would it take to become a filmmaker? What kinds of films would I want to make? That I sort of circled back around to my love of horror films. And then I was like, oh, well, there must be queer horror films that I didn't know existed. And
Hmm.
then I feel really grateful to have sort of come to that and now to be like living in a time where we're not looking at just like weird subtextual like readings of films like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, right? Like we're like openly and blatantly making queer horror films. I think Jennifer's Body was a really seminal film for me, right? It came out when I was in college. I
Oh
was
yeah.
absolutely obsessed with it, and so was my friend group. And I was like, oh, well, that felt like a sort of beginning of a thing. And I feel like my experience has proven that to be true. Right now, we're like all just casually like Alexander Skarsgård and Pillion, like, let's go, and not really even batting an eye at it.
Yes.
So that feels really cool. And it felt nice to be able to like step in without feeling like there were going to be a lot of barriers to that.
Yeah. Jennifer's Body is a cool like touchstone because I mean it's so queer, it's so gay, but like
Oh, great.
even then it was still being a little bit coy with it, right? Just like a
Yeah.
few jokes about I go both ways, right?
Well, and
But
the
yeah,
very right,
even
like
now.
it was not popular when it came out,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like the
flop,
people who
right?
loved it, but like culturally it was not what it has become.
Well, it was marketed, if I remember correctly, it was basically marketed to all the like straight bros, straight
Yeah,
horror
come see
bros.
Hot Megan Fox. And I was like, oh, I want to come see Hot Megan Fox.
And then a
That
few of
worked
them
out.
went opening weekend and realized like,
Yeah,
wait, shit, we're the bad
totally.
guys in this. This movie doesn't like us.
Oh God. Yeah. I
Um,
wish I could go back and like sit in the theater with them as that was happening. It'd be a fun social experiment.
But yeah, even now, and I'm sure this is true probably of so many movies in your festival, it's queer horror has gotten so much more explicit now where I love the subtext. I love all the old stuff and like
Yeah.
reading into, James Whale movies and Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh
But there's
yes.
something so satisfying too about just watching a scary movie that just happens to have a trans protagonist or just
Yeah.
happens to center around two women who are mothers, right?
Yeah.
Um,
We
and
still get the question, right, of whether, people who I'm having conversations with, and they're like, oh, you run a queer horror film festival. Do people make enough of those to fill a whole film festival? And I'm like, girl, you do not understand. Yes, there are lots of them. And I'm trying to think if there's anything this year. There are probably a couple that aren't like overt in their representation, but almost everything is like really deeply engaging with it on a really surface level or like really or on a really open level, right? They're like this is what I am trying to make my story about. Like it's important to me to show these kinds of characters, to tell these kinds of stories, and I'm not shy about it or ashamed about it.
yeah.
God, I love our filmmakers.
Well, and I hadn't necessarily thought about this till you were just saying it, but I think there's still like a real place for more subtle messaging too, because I'm kind of thinking about me as I was like coming up and getting comfortable with my own sexuality. Some of the stuff that was like really out there and open, I think about it's not horror, but when I first watched Queer as Folk, like
Yeah.
that was a little too much for me at first because I was like I was still in the closet. Nobody knew I was gay
Mhm.
like that felt intimidating. I really respect what it did for our society, like kind of in retrospect. But I think people, depending on where they are in their journey, some people probably need more of the subtextual, subtle stuff to kind of just like ease them in.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think that's what's great about having a sort of fully formed ecosystem is that you are making space for all of the different experiences and perspectives. And I think with genre filmmaking, this is something that we talk a lot about with our programming team, and that's something that, I really believe in. It it's a marginalized experience to be a queer person still in some spaces. And
Mm,
as a filmmaker, it still sometimes feels marginalizing to be a genre filmmaker when
yes.
you're in just sort of like mainstream film festival spaces or even going to the movie theaters like are you going to go see the new Oscar nominated film? And we're having a shakeup this year, right? Like Sinner's taking all the awards, but like generally horror is not something that people look to and think of as, you know, important culturally,
Hmm.
other than as like a moneymaker, right? But they don't think about the art form as having cultural relevance or importance, right? In the same way that I don't know. Now I'm like, I don't know what the Oscar noms this year that weren't horror movies were,
I
but
don't know because all I watch is horror. I'm the
exactly.
wrong
But
person to
that's the point,
ask.
right? Like, what is it an important movie? Oh, it's a horror movie. It can't be, right? But we don't believe that, right?
Mhm.
I think that there's just as much to get out of genre stories as there is to get out of a straight drama or a comedy or an action movie, or right? Whatever you're going to the theater
Mhm.
for, whatever kind of story experience you want, all of those sort of exist wrapped up in these genre stories. And it's a great place for queer folks who, yeah, might be anywhere along this whole spectrum of dealing with like their experience of being queer in the world to process in like a cathartic and a community-based way
Mhm.
what those experiences have been like.
Yeah,
Plus,
definitely.
then you do get to add the fun in, and that's not a bad thing, right? Like fun is not a bad word.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what makes a lot of horror digestible. I mean, I love the dark stuff too, but
But
yeah,
yeah,
you need some fun
and
to
yeah, queer
balance
horror
that.
films and camp, we we have a lot of it. Sometimes it's hard not to program just like 4 blocks of campy horror comedies
Mm.
because there are so many and they're so good.
Yep. And I imagine that's part of what's so important about creating film festivals, especially around really specific subgenres, is because it gives people this space to like really immerse themselves in these topics. Because I find when I'm at a film festival or talking to somebody like you, I almost forget about like how like the normies view the genre, and then I'll go and have a conversation with someone else, and they're like, "What are those movies? I've never heard of those." It's
Yes,
really nice to have these curated spaces that you're creating.
it is. Yeah, I still have, yeah, there's again weird experiences where people who I'm just getting to know will be like, "Oh yeah, I don't really like horror movies." And I'll just like have to stop and be like, okay, I probably don't need to cut you off permanently for that statement, but we should talk about it and maybe you should come watch some movies with me. Because
Uh,
yeah, it still it surprises me because there is so much going on in this like yeah, this like double niche world of like queer horror films and queer dark genre films, but that there are so many people who are not at all connected to that.
yes. So yeah, so I want to make sure we talk about your festival,
Yeah,
Queer for Your Film Festival, February 21st in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, right?
that's it.
At the Aperture Cinema.
Yes, they are our wonderful indie art house cinema. We love
Okay.
them. We've been there for this will be our 4th year in that space and our
Okay.
5th year overall.
Brilliant. Okay. So I wonder if just kind of starting big picture, could you give us a little bit of history on like how did this festival come about? How did you end up founding it?
Absolutely. So I came into festival work at the same time that I was coming up as a filmmaker. When I was in college, I was running a student film festival. And you know, I'm a producer and an AD. Those were the first jobs that I ever had in the film industry. I'm really organized. I like to put things together. So festival work felt really natural when I graduated. I worked at Lincoln Center for a bit with the New York Film Festival and all of the sort of ancillary film festivals that that organization does and realized that I really loved festival work. You know, I was like, oh, I could do this forever, but in the way of life, like ended up going and doing a bunch of other things and being a filmmaker, right? So I was making queer horror films and having that weird experience of like submitting and going and playing at a festival that was a horror film festival and being the only queer film in my block,
Mhm.
or submitting to a queer film festival and being the only genre film in a block of films and still feeling like this weird sense of isolation because I knew that there were filmmakers, right? I had friends who were making the same types of films that I was, but I was never getting to have that experience that I was looking for of being in a festival environment and like having everybody on the same page, like everybody really getting it. Because horror audiences are so great and enthusiastic, just they just love rabidly
Oh yeah.
the films. And queer audiences are bring a similar kind of energy and that there's just like so much support for being in a theater and seeing that kind of representation on screen. I was like, I know that there is a space to bring these two things together. So I was pulling on that experience as a filmmaker wanting that space and my experience running festivals. And I was like, okay, I could probably do this.
Yeah.
But then it's like, life and things, you're busy. When COVID happened and everything shut down, I had a whole lot of time on my hands all of a sudden. I was like days away from production on a project that got scrapped. We just had no idea how to move forward, right?
Oh,
Um, and so then I was like, oh, well, twiddling my thumbs, like what should I do? And a bunch of filmmaker friends who I had were already in, the late stages of post-production or had premieres coming up, and
mhm.
they were figuring out how to move to these online platforms that were springing up like crazy
Okay.
for filmmakers. And one of them was Eventive. And I had a filmmaker friend who had to buy, they were really clever, these companies had to buy an annual subscription to use the platform, but he
Hmm.
was just premiering his film. What, like he wanted one online premiere. I was
Okay.
like, okay, that's messed up. But then he wrote an email to a couple of us and was like, hey, I've got 11 more months of this subscription. Who wants to use it for something? And I thought about it for, probably 48 hours. And I was like, ooh, I really want to do my film festival. It's like, but then I was like, can I do it? Is it possible to pull something together that quickly? But I also had a film that I was working on finishing. And I was like, okay, well, this will be good motivation for me to finish.
Yeah.
And it'll be a, a reason to start,
Yeah.
right? I'm a really strong believer just as an artist and a creative and just like, do the thing, even if you're
Just
not
just do
quite
it. It might
ready.
be
Yeah,
messy, but show up and see
exactly.
what
Like just
happens.
figure it out, right? I can't like endlessly toil on the same thing. I just have to
Mm.
go and figure out if it's going to work. So I put out a call for entries on from Freeway. I threw a website up that was basically just a landing page with a really crappy logo that I like designed on Canva. And people sent me films and
Wow.
it was awesome. So we did that first year, we did 3 nights of screenings instead of because I again like COVID times were so weird. I was like, nobody's gonna sit at their computer all day because we were not used to that yet.
Yeah.
So I was like, we'll do, I think it was maybe a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a block each night.
Okay.
Um, and people came and it was just like really cool. Our filmmakers did Zoom Q&As
Okay.
and just like people seemed really engaged and it was a blast. So I was like, obviously now that we have started, we will keep going.
Yeah.
And once things sort of calmed down over the next few months and it was looking likely that things would start to open up, we reached out to Aperture because they are our only indie art house cinema. And I was like, well, you guys would be a great partner. Would you be interested in having us
Okay.
in person? And they were super enthusiastic. And then we were just off to the races, right? Every year
Wow.
we've gotten more submissions. Every year we've been able to grow our audience. We've sort of tweaked the format from that like 3 day thing down to a 2 day thing. And now we are a single 1 day, full day film festival.
Yeah.
And that's worked out pretty well for us because people will come in for it, but they don't have to give up like a whole
Mhm.
weekend. Um, and yeah, we're incredibly excited and grateful to be heading into year 5.
Wow. That's amazing. That's like
Yeah.
just one of those inspiring stories that reminds us all, yeah, like just try it. Like do the thing that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Um,
I expected it to be cool, but it has been so much cooler than even I was imagining before we started.
wow. So like I'm curious, I have like my own assumptions and thoughts about, why do we like film festivals and what's good about them. But I like from your perspective as somebody who actually creates them, like it's a very general question, but just like what purpose do film festivals serve in your opinion?
I think that's a great question because I think that they're serving different purposes for different
Hmm.
groups, right? I think for filmmakers, how do I get people to see my work is one of them, but like the truth is also most film festivals are really small, right? So you may be telling yourself that as a filmmaker, but that's not the real reason. I think to me, at least as a filmmaker, the reason that film festivals are appealing is that you're going to walk into a theater if you attend, and you should, because I'm not sure otherwise what the point is. If you're a
Hmm.
filmmaker, you should try to go to your film festival, because you're going to go into a theater of people who just love film, right? They're not like either trying to keep up with, the latest whatever, Rotten Tomatoes, high scoring things
Yeah.
so that they can have a water cooler conversation about it, or they're not just trying to kill time on a Thursday night, right? Like film festival attendees love film, right?
Yes.
They are some of the most passionate audiences ever. So to get to have that experience, to be in a theater and have these people who are really invested, right, emotionally in the type of work that you're doing, and to get that feedback and that opportunity for conversation, especially, we really believe in Q&As, right? It was something that was really important to me from the first festival. We've always done them after every film block because I think that dialogue between filmmakers and the audience is really important. So
Yeah.
those are the things that I think filmmakers can get out of it, right? Just like an outpouring of support. And, you know, I haven't had the experience very often of people coming up and like saying your film was crappy. You can get that though. But
Yeah.
I think even in those cases, like if you're sitting and watching your block, you're also seeing it alongside other films. And
Mhm.
I think all artists are students, right? They should be students of their own art form. So
Yeah.
I always find it really interesting too to see my work alongside other films that I've never seen before.
Mhm.
Especially like short blocks are great for this and getting to like imagine what the programmers were thinking about when they put your film in between these two other films. And I think the whole experience is helpful in continuing to like motivate you as an artist and also like it's
Yeah.
good for your craft. I think from the audience perspective, though, like I said, most film festival audiences that I've ever interacted with are just they're real diehard film fans. Not necessarily like cinephiles, but especially at these like niche or genre or whatever film festivals with some kind of specialty,
Mhm.
they're coming with like hearts full of love
Yeah.
for either just like the queer experience or horror films, or if it is a more general
Imagine.
festival, then just yeah, just we're here to support film. We love film and filmmakers, and we just think it's really cool. And I think it's a place for them to right come together, right? They get to be
Mhm.
surrounded by their own people. There is nothing like a packed audience where everybody is really invested in what's on the screen. And again, it's that like opportunity to interface. If the artists are there, they get to have that experience. Or I know some festival attendees who are like really obsessed with certain programmers and
Yeah.
getting to like it almost feels like you're part of the process, like you get to engage with it on a deeper level. Then again, like I'm never going to talk to the A-list director who put out the latest blockbuster probably, right? But you can go and get a lot closer to the art in a film festival setting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there's such like passionate crowds, like you said. I don't think, especially with such a niche program, I imagine you don't just end up there by accident, right?
No, not at ours, certainly.
I guess I wonder now, do you ever get like walk-ins? Someone was just walking through town and they saw
I mean,
something
yeah, I
and
guess
they're
that's not
like,
true. We totally have. So we had the weirdest experience last year. The festival was the same day as the in-theater Taylor Swift whatever, like Eras
yeah, I
Tour, like
remember that.
concert.
Yeah.
So we were in the lobby with our table and the poor theater staff, they were worried all day. They had sort of staggered the times
Um,
so that we wouldn't all be in the lobby at the same time, but we would have people coming out of the Taylor Swift screening and stopping at our table and being like, "What is this?" And some of them were like, right, these preteen girls. And I'm like, I will talk to anybody. I was a horror fan at your age. And so we had some really fun conversations, but we totally had people who came out of that screening who came into our last screening block.
Oh my
And
God.
it blew my mind. Our last screening block, too, is like, it happens a little earlier because Winston-Salem's sort of a small city and we don't really go crazy until midnight. But it is our like sort of midnight screening vibes.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, I don't know if you're ready for it, but they loved it.
Oh my
It was
God. I mean, the enthusiasm, if nothing else, there's got to be overlap there.
yeah,
And
no, it was so mind-bogglingly like fun and unexpected.
and now I'm wondering, yeah, we got to do like a research study and figure out the Swifties. What is their favorite subgenre of horror?
Oh man, I would love to know. Yeah, that would be
Smile,
really
Smile
cool.
2, they would either love it or be traumatized by it. I'm not sure. But
Yeah, it might be a 50-50 split. The ones who love it, come on down.
uh, so so for somebody who's like maybe just hearing about your festival for the first time, they're thinking about going. Um, yeah, what's the experience for them? They get to Aperture Cinema and what should they expect?
I love it. So Aperture itself is a super cool venue, right? If you are into supporting local arts organizations, they've
Mhm.
got all of their like quirky concessions and drinks going on. They've got fun vintage posters on the lobby, and then I'll be there at the table to welcome you with all of, our excitement and enthusiasm at the beginning of the day. And then you'll go into a theater that will be packed if the last couple of years are anything to go by.
Mhm.
We bring a lot of filmmakers in, so you've got a lot of filmmakers in the audience, and then we've been growing our audience of just local horror fans and queer cinema enthusiasts. So you can sort of feel the energy right away. Everybody's like chatting with each other, and
Mhm.
it's yeah. So again, if you haven't been to a film festival, it's not the same as going to like a Regal where you like try to put as much space between you and the people next to you as you can and nobody talks to each other. Like film festivals are a little more like casual and can be a little more interactive, and we sort of encourage that, right? We're definitely trying to get the filmmakers to talk to each other and to have those interactions with audience members. Um, but ultimately, you are there to watch a movie, right? So we'll bound up at the beginning of the screening and welcome everybody and play a funny little bumper to kick us off, and then the lights will go down and you'll get to have your true screening experience. So our festival is made up this year of 4 shorts blocks.
Okay.
Every shorts block has between I think 8 and 12 films in it. So the films might run anywhere between I think 3 minutes and 25 minutes is probably our longest short this year.
Okay.
So you'll get a lot of different flavors, but we do try to group them like in slightly, emotionally compatible ways. So we've got our light horror shorts in the morning, and then we've got horror comedy shorts, and then straight up horror shorts, hoping to give you nightmares.
Mhm.
And then we end it with Weird and Wild, which is just
Okay.
like our bonkers, maybe not technically horror, but definitely some horrifying things and just some like logic defying and our genre defying stuff all ends up in that block. So there's
Perfect
like a
time of
real
day to mess with your brain, I would
exactly
imagine.
there's so we try to curate you through the day emotionally, right? We start you off a little like easy and then we really ramp up. And hopefully, audience members who come and stay for that whole experience really, really feel like they're being, intentionally guided through
Mhm.
these experiences, right? Both between blocks and within the blocks, right? We spend a lot of time trying to think about what order of films makes the most sense for the viewer to have a really good experience.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, people are welcome to come and go if you're like, the cannibals in the horror block are not for me. Totally fair. You can definitely check out the horror comedy and then peace out for the day, right? Like we try to keep it really casual. Folks who come in and want to do the whole experience, right? We sell passes and you get a lanyard and a really cool bag, but we also just welcome, yeah, anybody casually coming off the street. If there are seats available, which there sometimes are, you are welcome to just drop in and like check out what it's all about.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds amazing.
So fun.
And it's do I remember right the numbers from your website? You have 41 short films
We do.
this
Yeah.
year, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. That's it, like even as somebody who in theory I think of myself as being like relatively tied into the queer horror world, like that number still blows me away. I was
And
looking
it's
at the
just a
list.
fraction, right? We every year it gets harder because we get more and more submissions. Which
Mhm.
I am constantly blown away, right? With the number of films that get sent to us that really fit the bill, right? If we could afford it, basically, we could program 3 days of festival,
Yeah.
right? We get enough stellar submissions to do that. We've
Mhm.
found in our market that this right now is the size that makes sense, but
Yeah.
there is just a lot out there.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
It's wild. Yeah, I looked through the list and I think there were maybe 7 or 8 that I've already seen in various other like some other film festivals and whatnot. But yeah, that's wild to me that there's still so many that I have not.
Yeah.
And same problem as you know, you wish you could program for a week and do a ton. I wish I could quit my day job and
And
just
just watch
spend the whole
horror.
week just reviewing all 41 of your films and giving every single filmmaker their due. But it's a good problem to have, I guess.
It is.
Yeah. Um, do you have any? theories yourself as someone who's so connected to this as to like, why is there such a well, number one, is it accurate to say that there's a queer horror boom right now? And if so, why?
I mean, I think there's a queer everything boom, right? Hopefully not, right? My nightmare is that we're like headed for backlash, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there has just been such a radical shift in the sort of overall cultural comfort with
Mm.
queer representation, right? And not right. I keep thinking of Pillion, right? Because it's just out in theaters and lots of
Yeah.
people are talking about it in my circle. Now, I don't kid myself that everybody knows what this BDSM Alexander Skarsgård movie is,
Yeah.
but like there does feel like there is just a different level of accept, right? Like heated rivalry, right? Let's
Oh yeah.
talk about how mainstream it is to have queer stories
Yes.
just be like part of the cultural conversation happening, right? So I think that's happened in literature too. I think it's happening in all of these different art spaces in a way that's really exciting. Um, and I think it's the combination of getting to see what's come before you, right? Like you you now know it's possible because you've seen it done, right?
Yeah.
So I think it is inspirational for a lot of other artists coming up, filmmakers, right, to see these things and to be able
Mhm.
to do them. But I also think that with film particularly, it's also just the democratizing like influence of cheap technology and like everybody growing up with a camera in their hand, right? Like I think that there is just more access to anybody making any kind of story that they want. And
Yeah.
when more people tell stories, we are by default going to get a greater diversity of stories.
Yeah.
So I think both of those things are sort of coming together in this like lovely confluence that yeah, leaves me like surrounded by riches of, of queer
Absolutely.
horror films and dark genre films. Um, but I think that effect is like replicated in probably just about every art form that's
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah,
being
we're
actively
seeing it
made right now.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I think like, yeah, also the fact that we can just be so much more open and explicit about it now. It's like, we can almost go back and just take every single trope and every cliche story and every old story and say, okay, it's our turn to do that now. Like
Yeah.
it's our turn to do a rom-com. It's our turn to do a giallo movie. It's our turn to do a body horror movie.
And why not? Yeah.
Mhm,
That is,
absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it's all storytelling is recycling, right?
Uh,
But yeah, every chance to sort of put your own perspective on it as an artist, um, you yeah, it the compulsion is like almost irresistible, right? You're like, oh yeah, I want to do that, right? I have found myself innumerable times as a filmmaker watching something. This often happens at film festivals, right? Where you get sort of like overwhelmed by a bunch of films. You'll see
mhm.
something and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna do it queer. I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna do it horror, right? I was just joking with a friend last night about waiting for somebody to do a horror cut from Heated Rivalry. I was like, why haven't I seen this yet? But it's probably out there already. I just
Oh
haven't
my
looked for
God.
it.
Like that old supercut they did of Robin Williams and Mrs.
Yes,
Doubtfire.
exactly like that. I was like, this has to be a thing. And if nobody's done it, I'm gonna do it. Whatever.
So,
That'll be my weekend after the festival.
you will make my husband's day. Like I loved Heated Rivalry, but I should have tagged him in a few minutes ago, and you could have just turned this into a Heated Rivalry
No, we can't let
interview.
that happen. But it has been, yeah, the timing has been unfortunate. I'm like, I could work on queer fear stuff, or I could just start back from episode one. It's a real problem. The fandom it's oh yeah, intense.
Um, so I know one thing that's kind of unique about your festival is that it's all short films, right?
Yeah.
Has that been the case since 2021? Is that
It
an
hasn't
intentional
actually.
choice?
This is actually our first year without a feature film.
Oh, really? Okay.
We have every other year we've shown at least one, and in year three we screened two,
Hmm.
um, and I think look it is so hard to make a feature film. Even shorts filmmakers who have never done it really don't understand how hard it is, but like I walked into it knowing that and I was like, I would love to make space for this, but that sort of runs up against, the reality of like we don't have that long of a festival, right?
Mhm.
Because we're still, we're a small festival. Um, and this year, because we had so many, we had almost 100% increase in the number of submissions that we had over last year, which I think a little bit maybe has to do with hitting that 5 year mark. I
Mhm.
think there's like a little filter on Film Free where you can search for festivals that are 5 years and older.
Okay.
Or maybe it's just right, having built a little bit of a reputation, like more people knew about us, and our alumni community grows every year. So we get more and more alumni screening again. So all of those are good things. But it meant that when we had to make those final programming decisions and we had a number of God, I won't name names of films that we have not programmed, but I had to reach out to a number of feature filmmakers and go, look, I loved your film, and I am
Mhm.
actively looking for programmers to send it to who have more programming space than we do, but we're not going to screen it this year
Yeah.
because we decided we had so many shorts that were on our short list
Hmm.
that the decision to like cut 8 of them so
Yeah.
that we could screen one feature just felt impossible this year. And it was a little heartbreaking,
Yeah.
because as hard as it is to make a feature, it is also that much harder to get programmed.
Mhm.
But I think as a festival programmer, I have to think, and as a festival director, right, I have to think about the audience.
Yeah.
We did start because I wanted space in community with other filmmakers. Like it was so important to create that. But then when you're doing the math, right, you're like, okay, so these 8 filmmakers versus this one filmmaker.
Yeah.
Um,
It totally
and yeah,
makes sense. And I
yeah,
think
but it's so hard.
when you make something, no, we all want to do it all, but you can't do everything.
Yeah,
And so in some ways, I think whatever you're creating, you got to kind of lean into that and just think, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to focus on it, do it well. Um, and I mean, short films. I personally am honestly a little bit new to that world since I started
yeah.
working for Macabre Daily. Um, a lot of people don't get exposed to short films, and they have very quickly become one of my favorite parts of being in this world. They
Oh, good.
are
I
so
love them. But yeah, they're
fascinating.
really underseen, right,
Hmm.
by most audiences. Like people who even like movies, who don't go to film festivals, don't usually encounter short films.
Yeah. Yeah, and they give people so much more like space, I think, to be creative and to try things because you can just like throw a wild idea out there and it potentially only has to last for like 3 minutes or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't have to like stretch it into a whole feature. So people do incredibly like risky and experimental and fun things in short film.
Yeah, I do love them. And that's where I started, right? So I will always, I think, as a filmmaker, gravitate towards shorts and love shorts and want to promote them,
Mhm.
right? It is not an avenue to make money for
Yeah.
filmmakers, right? So in that way, it also feels, I don't use the word pure. I can't think of a better word right now though, but like it is an art form for the sake of like honing your skills maybe, or yeah, being bold, trying something creatively, but like its purpose is not like let me win awards and get money and things. So it feels a little more, um see, all of the words are bad words. Because I love feature filmmakers. I don't know. Yeah, but there is something that feels really creatively true about the art form.
Yeah, yeah. And just, I know we're mostly talking about your film festival, but I have to take one moment to encourage people watching this to go to your website because you have a bunch of your own short films on there, right?
I do.
Um,
It's true.
and I wish I could lie and say like I had time to watch every single one of them in preparation for our interview. I didn't, but I watched earlier today. I was watching Peak.
Oh,
Um,
fun.
Oh my gosh, as a parent, like that one got me. That
Horrifying,
was that
right?
was so effective. Simple, but so effective.
Yeah, it's so
Um,
funny. Yeah, parent horror, family horror has been such a huge part of my work since I became a parent also.
mhm.
It's weird when you're like not aware of your own patterns sometimes until you've been making the same film and writing the same story like multiple times, and then you're like, Oh, I see it. So I had no idea at the time. I was just like, it'll be fun to shoot a movie in the backyard. And then yeah, like two feature screenplay later, I was like, oh, I am just writing about the horror of being a
Oh,
parent.
I might be working through some things here. Um, so Tiffany, I love chatting with you, love talking queer horror, and I could do it all day, but I definitely want to be respectful of your time. Um, Before we wrap up, could you just remind anyone watching, um, yeah, where should they find information about your festival, and how can people kind of connect with you online if they want to?
Absolutely. So the easiest place to find us is probably our website. We are queerfearfilmfestival.org.
Hmm.
And that'll take you to all the fun things, all the film descriptions this year, and places to buy tickets and passes and all that good stuff. Um, and then that same website will throw you over to our socials if you want to connect with us on Instagram or Facebook. We're still old school like that. And then I'm on that website. You can find links to I think my personal website, certainly my name, and that'll get you to my filmmaker website.
Yeah.
Um, and and yeah, I think it is worth emphasizing that we are about as small as festivals come, right? We're all volunteer run.
Mhm.
So it's me answering the emails most of the time. Got a couple other lovely volunteers who help out, but yeah, we're real easy to reach. We are the faces behind the curtain for sure.
Yeah. And even, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw on your website, even if there's someone who can't maybe attend the festival, but they want to support your efforts, there's opportunities to donate. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been running, and it's so great. Oh my God, I love horror fans and I love queer folks. My community is so supportive. We've run a fundraiser this year, early this year, to raise travel funds for our filmmakers to help bring
Okay.
them into town. We did hit our goal this past week, but we would still love support, right? We'll continue to treat them well and to plow the money into the next year's festival. Right. So that link is, I think, on the homepage. Still, you can also sign up for our newsletter and then become like part of the Queer Fear family and get updates from us throughout the year if you want.
Ah, that's fantastic. I'm so glad that this festival exists.
Too.
Obviously, you know this, but for anybody watching Macabre Daily, we're chatting with you about getting access to some of the screeners for your film. So we will be hopefully putting up a bunch of reviews on our website. Again, I wish we could cover all 41, but we'll do what we can to get the good word out about yourself and all these awesome filmmakers.
Absolutely. We love it and we are very appreciative.
Yeah. So yeah, Tiffany, thank you again for taking the time and have such a blast down there at
Thank
Queer Fear
you.
Film Festival.
We sure will.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening.